Hey everybody, welcome to the New Deal New Minute for May 6th, 2021. I'm Jerry Nutini. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button below. If you're listening on the podcast, please subscribe to the podcast, review the podcast, rate the podcast. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get right into it. I want to talk about the Liz Cheney op-ed that came out in the New York Times yesterday. So Liz Cheney is number 3 in power in the House of Representatives, and she's in jeopardy of losing that position because some Republicans don't like things she's saying, like maybe Joe Biden actually won the election, or maybe Donald Trump might have had something to do with the insurrection on January 6th, and maybe that should be investigated. You know, crazy things, unacceptable things for today's GOP. She says the question before us now is whether we will join Trump's crusade to delegitimize and undo the legal outcome of the 2020 election with all the consequences that might have. We've heard other Republicans taking a similar line as this. Mitt Romney, Ben Sasse, especially when it came to the impeachment hearings earlier in the year, but they're in the Senate, which is a little more moderate in general, but the House is much further right, which is why she's in trouble here. She said, and she kind of calls the game here, while embracing or ignoring Trump's statements might seem attractive to some for fundraising and political purposes, that approach will do profound long-term damage to the party and our country. So here she's throwing it out there and saying what we all know, which is the people that are spreading these conspiracies about the election, the people that are showing this undying commitment to Donald Trump are doing so because they know that maybe they won't get elected again if they say anything that is counter to Trump, or they'll lose fundraising dollars. It's all about keeping their seat in office, which is not why most representatives are supposed to be there. They're supposed to be serving the people, not serving themselves. So, Liz Cheney said the path forward for Republicans is clear. Number 1, support a Department of Justice investigation into the January 6th insurrection. Number 2, support bipartisan review, bipartisan commission with subpoena power to find facts so that Americans can find out what really happened on January 6th. Seems, reasonable. And number 3, get back to conservative principles. And here's the conservative principles that she rattles off. Adherence to the rule of law. Limited government, strong national defense, low taxes, fiscal conservatism. And in the op-ed, she even makes fun of us woke liberals. She makes fun of us and she says there is much at stake now, including the ridiculous wokeness of our political rivals. So Liz Cheney is every Republican's dream. Rule of law. Let's go get the woke liberals. Let's get back to conservative principles. There's nothing here that's any different than anything Donald Trump supported, other than her actually believing in fact and being concerned about the insurrection and maybe thinking that the election was, not rigged. And what this means is that the only dividing principle here is the devotion and loyalty to Donald Trump. It means that elected GOP officials are willing to abandon their own principles and remove someone from leadership who truly represents their value, all because Trump said so. So it makes you wonder, what is it about Donald Trump that the GOP and some Americans love so much? When conservatives like Liz Cheney are literally telling you that they stand for more conservative principles almost than Donald Trump ever did, what is the appeal of Donald Trump? And the only rational conclusion that can be drawn, and we've been saying this, is that it has to be the name calling. It has to be the belittling of those who disagree with him. It must be the vilification of the left. It must be the unabashed sexism and his ability to completely disregard, or in some cases demonize, issues of race in America. It means that the bulk of the GOP, and therefore many Americans who support them, are far less interested in actual policy and far more interested in dividing themselves from the other half of the country, from even independents, and making sure that liberals and those who disagree with Trump are as upset as possible, and there's no limit in sight to this. And that's where we start getting into some dangerous territory. But this isn't about policy. This is about how the guy in office treats people who disagree with him. This is not about unification. This is not about getting things done, because if it were, Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney would not be under fire because they're as conservative as it gets. We are already the socialists. We are already the enemy of the state. We've already been branded and targeted. It's been done. And a lot of Americans want to see that continue. They like the rhetoric. There's no other explanation. All Liz Cheney is trying to do is govern. The GOP at large is just trying to attempt a total seizure of power. There's no way around it. When you have other conservatives like Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney and even, Ben Sass and some other, moderate Republicans or sane Republicans who are just kind of saying like, hey, we should just step back from Trump. And you have so many people just sticking with Donald Trump, it's no longer about policy. Mitch McConnell condemned Trump on the floor of the Senate, and he's all about policy. This is not about policy. This is about people keeping their jobs, staying in office, and supporting Donald Trump despite the damage he has done to this country and the division he has caused in this country. And if it's not about policy, it's about power. And that's where it gets dangerous. So I hope that Liz Cheney is able to remain in power in the House simply because it represents a sane portion of our government that is not like out the deep end and just would instill a little more confidence in our elected officials. She's conservative. I don't like her principles. I don't like her stances in general, but I do like sanity. Sanity is important. So if she is allowed to keep that spot, if enough Republicans, vote to keep her in office, that means that there's a sane contingent of elected officials in the House and hopefully the Senate, and maybe things will be okay. Maybe we won't continue down this path for the next 3 years. It's only been 4 months since the insurrection as of today. So not much time has passed. 3 years is a long time. Let's hope that Liz Cheney can stay there. Let's hope that conservatives can get back to their values, their fundamentals, come back to the middle a little bit, and we'll see what happens. So that's my take on the Liz Cheney op-ed. Thank you for listening to the New Deal New Minute. I will catch you guys with the next news cycle. Have a good one.